back to Caravan to Midnight. I'm Dr. Dave Janda. I'd like to thank you for taking the time and the effort for joining me here today. You know, the goal of what we do at Caravan to Midnight, through John B. Wells segments and through my segments, is to provide you information the bought-off lamestream fake media will never provide. They'll never provide it because the fake media, or what some people still know as the mainstream media, is a tentacle of the globalist syndicate. It's their propaganda arm. Their arm that's used to suppress the facts, suppress the information that you truly need to know. You see, their goal is to keep you disinformed, misinformed, or not even informed. And the reason is because their goal is to strip every person in our country and around the world of the remaining freedoms and liberties we all hold and enjoy. You see, these are sinister people we're dealing with. They're control freaks. And in a word, they're evil. I can say that because I've gone head to head with them, eye to eye with them, for a number of years. Their goal is to strip you of your freedom and your liberty and ultimately your life. You know, they refer to us, and I've been in big white buildings in Washington, D.C. when this term has been brought up. They refer to you and me and everyone we know, anyone that's not part of the elite. And let's define it. The elite structure, some people have defined it as a maximum of 8,000. I actually think it's probably a maximum of about 1,000 at the top echelon of the elitist chain. But they refer to us as useless eaters, that we are utilizing the resources that was meant just for them. You see, they have no interest in any of our well-being. And that's the sick part. And the only way that we can defeat them is by educating as many people as possible, because by educating people with the facts, we empower individuals. And there's going to become a tipping point where enough people are educated and empowered that we can bring this globalist structure down. And I believe they're wobbling, and they're in big trouble. Because if you look at the actions that have been occurring on a number of different fronts, they're not acting as though they're all powerful at this point. They're acting as though they're desperate. And I think a lot of the things that we do on Caravan to Midnight, what I do on our sister show, my Sunday show. Now, on my Sunday show, Operation Freedom, it airs out of the People's Republic of Ann Arbor, Michigan, every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. Now, you can stream the show live by going to davejanda.com, or you can download the podcast. We have them available for you, usually about 9 p.m. Sunday, for you to download. Great guests, great information, great analysis, none of which you'll ever get in the bought-off lamestream fake media. But we also do this at Caravan to Midnight. And Caravan to Midnight is not sponsor-based, it's subscription-based. And the only way that John B. Wells and I can keep doing this is with your support. Now look, it's really the most cost-effective information source you will ever get. $5 a month for John B. Wells, $2.50 for me. With John B, you get 4 shows, Tuesday through Friday. For me, you get 2 shows, Monday and Thursday. And then there's my show on Sunday that you have access to, and also John B. Wells' Saturday show out of Dallas at KLIF that you have access to. Look, how much do you spend on cable? $100 a month? $150 a month? And look at the garbage they're feeding you. Information that's not going to help you, it's going to destroy you. Yet, it's no problem paying the cable bill. Or it's no problem going to Starbucks and buying a $5 cup of coffee. 1 Starbucks coffee will get you 1 month of John B. Wells. A half a cup of Starbucks will get me. And for less than 2 cups of Starbucks coffee every month, you get all the information you need and you don't need your cable anymore. I've just saved you at least $100. So for those listening on YouTube, go to the link down below. Sign up. Join the caravan. I can assure you, you will be happy you did. Let's just review the segments I've done on my side of the caravan segment of the platform over the past several weeks. We had John Titus, outstanding financial analyst, the best documentarian in the world, came on and he spoke about our financial system and what's really and who is really behind, who owns and operates our government, every government around the world, and who manipulates financial markets worldwide. That's in the first episode. You cannot afford not to know that information. It directly impacts you on a daily basis. We've also had General Tom McInerney come on. Now Tom blew open on our Operation Freedom show on a Sunday, March 19th, in fact, of how the Obama administration was destroying every American's Fourth Amendment right by the creation of a platform called the Hammer that was surreptitiously monitoring millions of Americans, including Trump, phone calls, emails, internet activity, financial transactions. That's not conspiracy theory, it's fact. Go to that second episode. And in that second episode, I also brought Paul Rosenberg to the stage. Paul is a brilliant cryptologist. Paul was speaking about things Edward Snowden started to speak about years later. You gotta listen to what Paul has to say about your protection and what you can do to protect yourself on the internet and what these goons are really after. You're not going to get that in the lamestream fake media. In our third show, we had Colonel Craig Roberts, who is the world's expert, investigative. Well, he was a sniper in Vietnam. He was one of the top snipers in our country's history in the military. He was a Tulsa police officer for 27 years. And he's turned into this investigative researcher journalist that's second to none. And Craig has taken apart what happened in the Oklahoma City bombing. Now you might say, well, that was in 1995, Dave, and what do I care? What do you care? Because the same people that were behind that event are the same people that are still messing with you today. And you need to know what Oklahoma City was really about. And you're never going to get that from the fake media. Never. We had a geopolitical special we did with Wayne Manson and also James Wesley Rawls. And they did a brilliant job of outlining what's really going on behind the curtain with the globalists in our country and what's really going on behind the curtain worldwide geopolitically. But in particular, James Wesley Rawls really laid it on the line because he runs a great blog called survivalblog.com of what you and your family need to do to protect yourselves. Because as he pointed out, as a number of our guests have pointed out, there is a financial reset coming. And if you're not prepared, you are going to be in tough shape. And so is your family. And then most recently, we had James Myers on, who has an uncanny track record over the past 40 years when it comes to financial analysis and market analysis. I encourage you to listen to that show. And in particular, we also had James Perloff on, who delved into what our country has been involved with since as far back as the late 1800s. Of false flag operations, and our government has been involved in that. And through those false flag operations that are essentially run through the globalists, of which our government leaders are just puppets of the globalists, how the globalists, through their puppets instituting these false flag maneuvers and events, have led to more power, more control, and more financial wealth for the globalist syndicate hiding behind the curtain. James Perloff in that interview, went to the big kahuna. And the big kahuna is 9/11. Now look, it is information that none of us want to hear, none of us want to consider. None of us, we just want to have those blinders on and pretend we're living in Mayberry with Andy Griffith or on the Dick Van Dyke Show. But we're not. And we better be aware of it. Because if you can't identify your enemy and you don't understand their past or their history, you will be their victim in a short period of time. I'm not saying everything James Perloff presented was completely accurate. But you need to open your mind to what he presented. It's something you don't want to face. It's something none of us want to face. But that interview alone, I believe, was worth $1 million. And then I did a healthcare special that the contents of which you'll never see, hear, or read from anyone in government, from anyone in the lamestream fake media, or frankly anyone in the alternative media. And how do I know that? Because I have lived healthcare delivery for 32 years. I have worked on healthcare policy for 27 years. And in that 3-part show, I provided you information that no one else has access to. And it's information that directly benefits your health and welfare and your families. And many of the things that you'll see that we discuss, you'll start to see perk to the surface. Days, weeks, months down the line. No, we're very proactive at what we do at Caravan, with what I do on Operation Freedom and what John does on Arc Midnight. We're ahead of the curve. And by being a subscriber, so are you. You want to keep your head in the sand? Don't subscribe. It's that simple. But just understand, when all hell starts to break loose, ask yourself, why am I not prepared? Why did I not know this was coming? We make it very easy for you. Very easy. You know, with this healthcare situation, it's the biggest goat rodeo around. The problem is that what they need to do, as I've said from the very beginning, is repeal Obamacare. Obamacare is a fascist plan that strips the healthcare freedom of every American. And until it's completely ripped from its roots out of the ground, it is going to have a negative adverse effect on every American and on our country. Headline from Rand Paul, who actually is on the right side of this equation. I miss the old days when Republicans stood for repealing Obamacare. He goes on, now, too many Republicans are falling all over themselves to stuff hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars into a bill that doesn't repeal Obamacare and feeds big insurance a huge bailout. You better believe it, and you would have already known that if you had listened to that healthcare special I did. He goes on. Obamacare regulations, still here. Taxes, many still in place, totaling hundreds of billions of dollars. Insurance company bailouts, those too. Remember when Republicans complained about Obamacare's risk corridors? Remember when we called the corridors nothing more than an insurance company bailout? Now the Senate GOP plan being put forward is chock full of insurance bailout money to the tune of nearly $200 billion. To those of you who subscribe to my platform on Caravan to Midnight or listen to Operation Freedom, that doesn't surprise you. The current Trump Care plan, Ryan Care plan, now Trump Care plan, will end in a disaster. And the reason is because it's all about bailing out insurance companies. And don't believe me, there's a track record to the point where the IRS ended up investigating my wife and I for 9 months because of my opposition to Obamacare. I despise Obamacare. I'm not hammering Trump Care so that Obamacare stays. Obamacare needs to go. And Obamacare was written by the insurance industry. And in fact, as Rand Paul points out, as I pointed out in my healthcare special, the insurance industry formulated Ryan Care, which then morphed into Trump Care. First, Obamacare needs to go. And then let the free market forces set in. And all of that is in that healthcare special. You see, folks, the globalist playbook is falling apart. You see, their goal was to get control of our healthcare delivery system, because if they can control your healthcare delivery, they can control every business, every person, every family, and how they live and how they die. But because there is opposition, such as what we're doing and what you can do by spreading this information to others, they can't institute their plan. And if they can't institute Obamacare and all the negative ramifications of it, it adversely affects them. It affects their playbook of getting ultimate control, stripping you of all your freedoms and all your liberties. No, their playbook is falling apart. They're messing with us on so many different fronts. Yes, they're messing with us in the financial world, and we've outlined that. Just go back to our guests we've had and listen to what Joe Myers pointed out, or John Titus, or Rob Kirby. But they're also messing with other aspects of our environment. They're messing with our food supply. Look, remember what they call us, those meetings I was at in Washington, useless eaters. You think they're eating all this garbage that's hurting people? Heck no. And many of us started sounding the alarm. I did 7 years ago. I had the largest bee guy that does beehives in the United States. I believe he's based out of Minnesota, talking about the death of the bee population, the adverse effects in our food supply. And people thought I was crazy for having this fella on 7 years ago. And now it's all coming to fruition. Exactly what he said is the fact. He said, look, there's something going on in the environment. Somebody's messing with the environment. Now, if you listen to Dane Whittington, who we've also had on a guest when I was hosting for John, Dane talks about this aerosol spraying that's going on with aluminum, and how huge levels of aluminum have been ascertained in peer-reviewed studies in these bee populations. And that's true. But now there's a report out, headline, this is from Zero Hedge, globalism and pesticides are behind massive honeybee die-off, Bayer study confirms. Now understand something, Bayer study. Now Bayer is part of the globalist syndicate. So they might be a misdirection here in a sense that, yeah, there could be a pesticide issues with some of these bees, but we also know there's an aluminum issue. And the only way the aluminum is affecting the bee population is through the aerosol spraying that's occurring by the globalists. And listen to the interview I did with Dane Whittington. From this article. Despite big agricultures claiming for years that their pesticides only kill pests, a report published in the journal Science recently that many people have suspected for years. The type of pesticides that Bayer pioneered, known as neonicotinoids, are responsible for diminishing numbers of honeybees. 2 studies conducted on different crops and on 2 continents find that bees near corn crops are exposed to neonicotinoids for 3 to 4 months via non-target pollen, resulting in decreased survival and immune responses, especially when co-exposed to a commonly used agrofungicide, the report said. The studies even found neonicotinoid residue inside of hives where no chemicals had been used nearby. The study also noted that the presence of these insecticide residues was correlated with fewer queen bees in the hives, fewer egg cells in solitary bee nests. They're messing with us on a number of different fronts. Either it's the insecticides or it's also with what they're doing with the spraying. It's occurring. It's not conspiracy theory. It's fact. But the globalists are trying to keep pushing that that global warming false narrative. Why? Because it's all about them getting more money and control and power. That's what the global warming agenda is. Does climate change occur? Absolutely. Climate has changed for eons. No one's denying the climate isn't changing. Listen to the interviews I do on Operation Freedom with Joe Bastardi, the top meteorological guy in at least the country, if not the world. Joe gets hammered because he's outed these global warming frauds for years. But Joe hasn't said that there isn't climate change. Absolutely there's climate change. But just not what the globalists are trying to jam down your throat, whether it's Al Gore or whether it's Stephen Hawking. Headline from Zero Hedge, global warming alarmism goes to 11. Stephen Hawking claims Trump could turn Earth into Venus. Oh, come on. Hawking is a globalist hack. So is Gore. So are all these guys. They are put there to be alarmists, to misinform you, to disinform you, to harm you. It's the globalists that are screwing with the environment. All you do is look up in the sky. And they're all hypocrites. Oh, Obama. Oh, I'm such an environmentalist. How about this headline? Obama takes private jet 14-car convoy to his $3.2 million climate change speech. He got paid $3.2 million, like a good globalist puppet, to give a talk on global warming. And he flew there in his private jet with his 14-car convoy. What a freaking hypocrite. They all are, whether it's DiCaprio, whoever. Gore with his 10 mansions, with his carbon footprint the size of Massachusetts. But he's going to tell you that you should keep your house at 35 degrees in the winter? Piece of garbage. Talking about another piece of garbage. How about the, quote, scientist Michael Mann from Penn State University, the guy who developed that hockey stick model that Al Gore loves so much? As far as I'm concerned, they can take that hockey stick model and shove it where the sun doesn't shine, because that's where it belongs. From Technocracy News. Inventor of fraudulent temperature hockey stick is humiliated in Canadian court. Remember, all the global warming dudes have hung on to this hockey stick model as, oh, it's so, this is it. This piece of data, this piece of information is what our whole movement is based around. It's a fraud. Listen to this. Michael Mann, the guy who developed this bogus hockey stick model, is an unrepentant and belligerent technocrat who deceived the whole world with his so-called hockey stick temperature model. This from Technocracy News. His humiliation in a Canadian court should be a fatal blow to the entire climate change scam. Defying a judge's direct order, Mann has refused to provide his data for public scrutiny. The light of day, imagine that. And that's what we've always said, shine the light of truth on it. And it melts every time for these globalists. They go on. Penn State climate scientist, use that term loosely please, Michael Hockey Stick Mann commits contempt of court in the climate science trial of the century. Prominent alarmist shockingly defies judge and refuses to surrender his data for open court examination. Only possible outcome? Mann's humiliation, defeat, and likely criminal investigation in the United States. Oh, that couldn't come soon enough. The defendant in the libel trial, the 79-year-old Canadian climatologist Dr. Tim Ball, is expected to instruct his British Columbia attorneys to trigger mandatory punitive court sanctions, including a ruling that Mann did act with criminal intent when using public funds to commit climate data fraud. Good for you, Ball. Goes on. Mann's imminent defeat is set to send shockwaves worldwide within the climate scientist community, as the outcome will be both a legal and scientific vindication of many people, including U.S. President Donald Trump's claims that the climate scare stories are a hoax. Mann's cherry-picked version of science makes the medieval warm period, which occurred He made it disappear, imagine that, in his hockey stick model, and shows a pronounced upward tick in the late 20th century. The blade of his hockey stick, using more reliable and widely available public data, shows a much warmer medieval warming period with temperatures hotter than today, and showing current temperatures well within natural variation. You see, they wanted to use the global warming shtick, fraud, as a means of stripping you of further freedoms and liberties and money. But it's fallen apart. Exclusive. Study finds temperature adjustments account for nearly all of the warming in climate data. Wait a minute, I know. CBS, NBC, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, and even Fox. I know you haven't heard it, and you won't, because they're part of the syndicate. From the Daily Caller. A new study found adjustments made to global... This is different from Mann's, by the way. This is different. A new study found adjustments made to global surface temperature readings by scientists in recent years are totally inconsistent and published and credible U.S. and other temperature data. The peer-reviewed studies tried to validate current surface temperature data sets managed by NASA, NOAA, and the UK's Met Office, all of which make adjustments to raw thermometer readings. There's your government. NASA, fraud. NOAA, fraud. The UK's Met Office, fraud. NOAA whistleblower. Here's the other problem the globalists have. There are people that are putting the interests of you ahead of the globalists. And they're putting their lives in danger by doing it. NOAA whistleblower claims world leaders fooled by fake global warming data. Dr. John Bates' disclosures about the manipulation of data behind the so-called Pause-Buster paper is the biggest scientific scandal since ClimateGate in 2009, when as Britain's Daily Mail reported, thousands of leaked emails revealed scientists were trying to block access to data and using a trick to conceal embarrassing flaws in their claims about global warming. Britain's Mail recently revealed astonishing evidence that the organization that is the world's leading source of climate data rushed to publish a landmark paper that exaggerated global warming and was timed to influence the historic Paris Agreement on climate change. And they give Trump grief for not signing on to that. There was a recent G20 meeting. 19 of them signed on to it. Paris Accord. It's fraud. And the only guy who had the stones enough to stand up to it was Trump. Look, there's not everything Donald Trump does that I agree with. But I'll tell you something. If you look at the reaction that's occurring from the globalist syndicate against Trump, it makes you... I'm convinced that the guy is not playing the globalist playbook the way they want. You know, one of the things, I mentioned Joe Bastardi. Joe is the smartest guy when it comes to climate. And that's not an overstatement. And one of the things Joe has always taught me is, one, climate's changed. It's always changed. But the other thing he's taught me is, look up in the sky, that sun. That sun is really key if you want to be really good about predicting what might happen on in our Earth's climate. This is from news.com. And this is kind of a heads up. Sun might plunge into deep solar minimum, which could cause part of the Earth's atmosphere to have a problem and possibly collapse. Scientists suspect the sun is on the verge of a deep solar minimum. It's about to shower us with rays so intense that part of our atmosphere could well collapse. The sun might soon batter us with a shower of deep space rays so intense it could cause part of our atmosphere to collapse. Space scientists reckon we are on the verge of a deep solar minimum, which is a period of low activity. So what does that mean? Well, if the sun's activity is low, it could lead potentially to some global cooling events. We have to keep our antennas up. We need to listen to reliable sources. When it comes to climate, the best reliable source I know is Joe Bastardi. He has a great website, weatherbell.com. The bottom line, folks, is that the propaganda that's been thrown at us by the lamestream fake media, which is a tentacle of the globalist syndicate, is falling apart. Their narrative is falling apart. Why? Because you are becoming more educated, and you have been networking information to those around you, to your family, to your friends, to your neighbors, to your coworkers. And yes, I know, when you network some of this information, they might look at you like you have a third eye. Initially. But I can tell you from experience, in days or weeks or months, or maybe in the hardest of cases, several years, they will come back to you and thank you for educating them, for giving them information that they then researched. You see, the way we beat the globalists is by educating as many people as possible. And when we educate people, we empower them. And we empower them, the globalist curtain finally gets ripped to shreds. We have a great show for you today. Great information. Information the fake media will never provide. We're going to take a little commercial break, if you will, a musical break. And then we're going to come back with those great guests. Until then, dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for joining us. And for those of you on YouTube, look at the link down below. It's not too late. Sign up. Get all those segments. Listen to them. Educate yourself. Empower yourself. And then empower others by